What's up, Ego Hackers? Welcome to Season 12, Part 2, Episode 5, which is Social Skills for ESFJs. Really enjoying the season. I think the season is entirely necessary for everybody because, especially for ESFJs, given how sociable ESFJs like to imagine themselves, meaning that they are expert at feeling hero, masters of social interaction, but for some reason, all of the 16 types fall short and consistently fall short of having all social skills in all situations, which is actually entirely false and not true. And it's really important that we understand the dynamics of social skills when it comes to the 16 types and what they're capable of and what they do. So, in all social interactions, regardless of social context, the instinct to achieve one's cognitive origin is always present. And this is ultimately why human beings are social, basically. So, ESFJs. Everyone has social skills specifically with the intent of gaining their cognitive origin. That's what it's all about. Cognitive origins, while typically unconscious, they end up driving the single most important piece of knowledge for use for skillful and dynamic social interactions. And if you know what you and other people are seeking the most out of life in any social situation, which is absolutely, fundamentally cognitive origins, it's what people are living for, essentially. And the ESFJ is living for discovery, wanting to be taken along for the ride and discover new things with somebody else, given how interdependent they are. It's really nice to understand, how you yourself can be more sociable with an ESFJ, but it's still the responsibility of every single person to understand exactly what other people's cognitive origins are to that end. Furthermore, then you have sexual agendas like hypergamy and polygyny, while more socially restricted in certain environments like professional environments, are also always present, and the sexual agenda can override both nature and nurture. So we talk about the sexual Ouroboros all the time, which is sexuality starts in men first, when they become sexually aroused by a woman, and then it leads them to their nature, perceiving and deciding about her, which then leads to their nurture to nurture said woman through their octogram, and then her nurture receives it, and then that tantalizes her nature, her type basically, and that has the potential to open up her sexuality to him, the man. And that's basically how that works fundamentally. But all this is important to understand because sexuality definitely trumps personality type. It also trumps nurture. And we are talking about ESFJs and ultimately the ESFJ nature and how the ESFJ needs to optimize its social interaction just like everybody else. So an extroverted octogram, So many suffer socially due to their ignorance of other people's types and what other people are seeking, and many suffer from the brainwashing which blinds the realities of intersexual dynamics. Masculinity, femininity, and polarity are driving forces in all human interactions. I'd also like to add that when considering consuming content as a person, TikTok, social media, it doesn't matter, you really have to take everything with a grain of salt because 100% of all content produced is propaganda. Because anything biased is potentially propaganda. But everyone, due to cognitive projection, is biased and projecting themselves or the people who are most compatible with them or the idealized versions of people that they hope will meet their cognitive origins with whatever octogram variant of each type that they are onto others, and this creates unrealistic expectations, and it comes out in the form of propaganda. Basically, people consuming propaganda or people producing propaganda, and that too is another form of social skill. Technically, it's and many suffer from the brainwashing. And the brainwashing of propaganda, for example, and you could think like the majority of content, maybe 9 out of 10 content out there is propaganda to a point. makes ESFJs in particular, because they are very easily respecting people's authority, respecting other people's FI leadership, basically, with their extroverted feeling hero and their traditionalism with their introverted sensing parent. This ends up becoming a big problem over time. So individually, becoming aware of one's social blind spots, like your trickster or your demon, and leveraging our innate social magnetism, which is cognitive origin in our parent, is vital in cultivating social skills, trusted connections, and personal success. It's also a way to get through and cut through the bullshit of life, the propaganda. And it's so interesting how ESFJs easily basically take on propaganda and allow propaganda to shape their beliefs or shape their thinking. And then they will preach it to other people because it's like, oh, I discovered this new thing. And it could be propaganda, for example. And then by discovering it, then they expect everyone else to listen to them about it, and then they will listen to nobody. And it creates a big-time echo chamber, that which extroverted thinkers or FI users are very afraid of, technically. So there are some negative social perceptions of ESFJs, though. So the colloquial perception of ESFJs is that they are helpful, social, personable, and jolly, but they can also be dismissive, closed-minded, and expect the same potentially blind dutifulness from anyone as they do from themselves. And then these perceptions naturally shift when nurture, gender, and octogram are accounted for. ESFJs often commit social faux pas just like everybody else, and they come from two primary places. The first one is by being dutiful and enforcing social norms and pushing helpfulness by the ESFJ, leading to feeling entitled to share their thoughts and using their deadly sins to compensate for their inferior function. And two, being ignorant of how being helpful and expecting others to be just as helpful actually harms the social status. This is one of the points that I brought up in the ENFJ lecture. Extroverted feeling heroes really need to read the book When Helping Hurts, especially extroverted feeling hero women, especially ESFJ women, who have a tendency to be the biggest enablers of the type. And enabling people can actually be really abusive. And ESFJ women don't even realize just how that can be a problem. I remember my ESFJ grandmother enabling me as a child. She enabled me so bad that I ended up, she's one of the reasons why I became 300 pounds, basically, giving into deadly sin of gluttony and developing that deadly sin, helping develop that deadly sin within me, such that it becomes like a really bad natural proclivity in my adulthood. I've always struggled with gluttony. I was actually telling earlier today about how I am insanely addicted to Doritos. Insanely addicted. The last time I had Doritos was July 4th of this year. And before then, I was about 10 years sober on Doritos. Thing is, when I get my hands on Doritos, I cannot stop. If I open a bag, the entire bag will be consumed. It's actually something I'm very ashamed of. And I am very, very obsessed with Doritos. I would eat a bag of Doritos, one of the smaller bags of Doritos, every single day, my entire childhood, for basically my entire childhood. And they're extremely toxic and basically poison to eat. And I just couldn't let it go. And a lot of that came from bad habits that were ultimately enabled by my ESFJ grandmother, who's being hyper supportive, but in doing so basically led to the destruction of her grandchild's health. And that could be a serious, serious problem. So yeah, they have a tendency of being ignorant of how being helpful can actually really be harmful to other people. And then as a result, it can harm their social status because they may actually be helping the wrong person, or they might be helping too much. And then they realize that their help is not actually helping anyone. So though our hero is our innate strength, the more pridefully we lean into our hero, the more blinded we become to our hero's insufficiency and our demon's reality. The more we feel entitled to our hero's glory, the more unintended damage the demon will do. The more an ESFJ assumes what is good and believes that everyone should be collectively obligated towards the same beliefs through their expert thinking demon, the more they damage themselves and others through deciding what is permissible to think and do, which is extroverted sensing critic and TE demon. And that's actually a body temple concept that I've noticed. Like even the Apostle Paul in the New Testament, who is a member of the body temple because he's an ENTJ, he would talk about how everything is permissible, but not everything is beneficial. And he's constantly talking about the benefits, right? And how that can be a serious issue or a big problem over time. And it's so interesting watching ESFJs thinking that they get to decide what is permissible or what is beneficial. They're constantly using that dichotomy back and forth to kind of push their own agenda, even though sometimes they're not even conscious of that agenda, because it's introverted intuition trickster. Introverted intuition being the agenda function, an agenda one's own person has that they exert on other people with extroverted sensing. And the SE critic comes out and basically enforces what is permissible and what is not impermissible on other people. That's why ESFJs consistently have the social status of being overbearing, right? And then ENFJs, similar to ENFJs, ESFJs can be taken advantage of by experts who are valued collectively. This is where an ESFJ gets discovery only by rediscovering what they are already comfortable with, making them ultimately a slave. This is an extremely difficult concept for a lot of ESFJs to grasp. But ESFJs struggle the most with having an echo chamber in their head. Out of all the 16 types, they're capable of receiving feedback from other people, but their perception inhibits their ability to learn from other people's mistakes, and they end up becoming hyper loyal to bad habits or bad ideas or bad people, bad causes, bad churches, bad belief systems. And it's because they are already comfortable with it, because it's already what they've known and what they know. And they will become these enforcers that will force other people to fall in line at certain times. It doesn't have to be church related. It could also be something as simple as Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and talking about how there's a certain way to train Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, or a certain way to spar, or a certain this or a certain that, and constantly expecting everyone to fall in line from that perspective. What they don't realize is that they are not only harming the freedom of other people around them in that social interaction, but they're also harming their own freedom in the process, which really sucks. ESFJs can use their introverted sensing experience to push outside of social norms to discover the transcendent good. ESFJs who have a wide variety of life experience and utilize that variety to have an open mind tend to be the most respected, versus ESFJs who just stay in their comfort zone. They end up not being respected, and they end up becoming a huge burden on other people. And then again, the FI users are constantly running away from the echo chamber that is typically seen among them. So when other people value you, the ESFJ, only for being desirable and helpful, which is extrovert feeling and extrovert intuition, it can be a sign that others are taking advantage of you. Be careful when people want you only because of what you give them. And that, to be fair, goes for all crusaders. I mean, I'm guilty of that as well. Oftentimes, I find myself being entirely taken advantage of, even by people within the ego hacker community. And they take advantage of my compassion. But the supportive nature of the ESFJ, it's even easier to take advantage of an ESFJ. And, oftentimes ESFJs end up being starved for other people valuing them, starved for other people wanting them, that they will just consistently give. But it ends up becoming an attachment where they're being drained to that attachment. It's not a two-way street relationship. It's really not. It's really not. Also, quality people tend to invest in an ESFJ's duty, comfort, and respect their life experience. That's how you can tell, how to separate the men from the boys in terms of people that you are loyal to. Who should you actually be putting your loyalty to? Your introverted sensing loyalty. And it's really the people that invest in you. It's the people who actually are willing to comfort you or not harm your comfort. And it's people who respect you, ultimately. And that's a really, really big deal. So covering the blind spots, as there are blind spots, which is the demon and the trickster function. And that's the primary blind spot of any of the types. So for the ESFJ, the first major blind spot is NI trickster, which consistently destroys their life. I was actually coaching a parent recently of an ESFJ who is fully grown and made so many bad decisions over and over and over. They're not even 21 yet. They're a college student and is making bad decision from bad decision to bad decision. And they think they want something because from their perspective they can want it all, but in doing so it's actually harming their life and actually inhibiting their ability to get anywhere, which just makes things worse for everyone. And they actually end up having a tendency of pulling everyone down along with them. So ESFJs can get themselves into big trouble by taking their trickster too seriously. This can also come from, I only want what other people want for me. This opens the ESFJ to being abused and used as a doormat. ESFJs, like INTPs, end up becoming the most doormatted of the types, especially, there's a lot of times most people would say especially women, but actually I have seen it far worse with ESFJ men actually being used as a doormat. A friend of mine who's an INFJ, his father is an ESFJ. His masculine idealism was consistently there for this INFJ friend of mine's mother, and she ultimately betrayed him and cheated on him, even though she was disabled, and he was there for her for 20 years, and he got nothing out of it, and he was completely destroyed, and his whole life was basically wasted in the process. It's a really, really sad story. And the ESFJ's big mistake is deciding appropriately what values they must enforce. And ESFJs really need to get to a point where they shouldn't be deciding what values they must enforce. It's not about that. That's not their position. Their position is just to be helpers. Their position is to be supporters. It's not their position to make those decisions. Granted, they will have to make decisions at certain times, but they make decisions for themselves or maybe people within their own family, but not to, the wider social audience. But they oftentimes do that, and they end up pushing people away. And then they wonder why no one wants them anymore, which is actually really sad. So NI trickster may imagine the good that can come out of enforcing social norms or what is collectively valued. The other blind spot of extroverted thinking demon is realizing that there is a reason that some other people are listened to and some are not. An obsession with being right all the time makes ESFJs come off as smug know-it-alls that no one enjoys, which is basically extroverted sensing critic. No one's going to listen to them because they come off as smug know-it-alls, and it's no different for like ENFJs. They have the same problem. I mean, my father's that way, my grandmother's that way, my sister, who is also an ESFJ, is also that way. It's funny because actually the last phone call I had with my sister, she was so smug, and she said some of the most offensive things, and then she stopped herself just after she said those things and was like, "Oh, I'm sorry. That probably came out this way. That was not my intention. I'm just trying to help you with this." And I was like, "Oh, dang." And that's the first time my sister has ever caught herself in my whole life with being hypercritical and expecting everyone else to listen to her, but she won't listen to anyone. It's crazy. The cognitive origin of discovery can help the ESFJ immensely by equipping them with the interesting things to talk about and share. And while that's true, cognitive origin of discovery, sometimes they want to discover, what people value based on their own ideas, and they heavily want that. So oftentimes they throw their ideas at other people consistently. And even though those people may not have actually even asked for that, maybe those people don't even want that, but they're going to throw at them anyway. They're going to share what they think based on the social norm because it's a social norm that they are loyal to, right? Or it's a person or a cause that they are loyal to. And they're going to shove it in other people's face. Hey, look at this thing that I discovered. You're going to want to know all about it, and let me tell you all about it, even though the person never asked for it or even invited that conversation to begin with. It can be very off-putting from a social perspective. So what's an ESFJ's highest social value? So social expectations for ESFJs are expected to be socially competent, helpful, reliable, and extremely self-sacrificial. They often are all these things, especially as children. Many ESFJs are rewarded for doing well academically, and others, especially unconscious developed ESFJs, which have had to develop their own independence, often outside traditional education. Being dutiful opens ESFJs to being manipulated, however. ESFJs often get taken advantage of and treated like doormats, like we already stated. What are ESFJs valued for the most socially? It ultimately comes down to reliability and strength. They are hyper reliable. In fact, they're the most reliable of the 16 types. These are the people who would even like put money away in savings and have a savings account specifically for helping other people to answer the call, so that they have an opportunity to prove their reliability and strength to other people. Their extroverted sensing critic, combined with their extroverted feeling hero, demands this of them. And it's always so fascinating to actually watch or understand. And that reliability and strength ultimately comes from introverted sensing parent. Other people want to know that they can rely on you, the ESFJ, and know you'll sacrifice to help them. The introverted sensing parent, when combined with the extroverted sensing critic orbit, mixes skill and consistency together. ESFJs can be extremely desirable because they practice reliability and performance together. People love when you help them move without scratching their furniture or ruining their floors, etc. The more life experience an ESFJ gains, the more their cognitive origin of discovery builds layers like rich soil of wisdom, strength, and inspiration, and also fuels their reliability. It's so interesting, like the younger an ESFJ is, the less reliable they are. The older an ESFJ is, they are far more reliable. And they've gained a lot more resources stored up over time, as is, necessary for the body temple. So the discovery origin is the drive that ESFJs need to seek new life experiences. You don't have to say yes to it all, but pushing out of your comfort zone hypercharges your social value to other people. In endless discovery, you'll have the most interesting stories to tell that others are dying to listen to, and you'll finally know what things you actually want because you've done it all. ESFJs, folks, you got to get to the point where you're comfortable with being willing to boil the ocean, basically. You want to boil the ocean. Stop trying to focus. And that's one of the big problems with ESFJs. Like, the anti-trickster is such a problem because ESFJs are consistently going out of their way to try to focus. But in focusing, they end up causing these problems that they're trying to avoid. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. You got to stay unfocused. You have to understand that it is your responsibility as an ESFJ to literally do everything, to take on every responsibility, every obligation, and discover and explore every potential obligation. Find out which obligations you are suited for, which ones you're capable at doing, which ones you may even get praise for doing, and then hammer those obligations over the rest of the obligations out there. This will actually contribute to your success entirely. And it's not necessarily that you're focusing, it's more that you're just concentrating on a set of skills or a set of obligations that you know you can handle and handle well, because you're getting positive feedback from other people, and people are asking you consistently over time to do it, such that you end up thinking with your TI inferior that, oh, okay, hey, this is actually my role now. So you're really adopting roles. But the thing is that you as ESFJs need to explore all of the roles, because that increases your social fiber, basically. It increases your ability to gain all of that life experience necessary to increase your strength, to increase your reliability through your introverted sensing. That's what it's all about, folks. So sexuality, nurture, and nature remain the tiers of social engagement. Sexuality trumps nurture and nature despite development. A mature parent function remains socially conscious in how it can contribute to others. A mature parent prioritizes balance as well. Introverted parents learn to focus externally, and extroverted parents learn to focus internally. And the reason why, and we would talk a lot about how there's externalization and internalization of cognitive functions. We talk about it a lot. And all of these things are absolutely critical. Okay? They're absolutely critical. Why? Well, the reason is because if you have introverted sensing parent, oftentimes you have to, as a man, you have to learn how to be loyal to yourself. As a woman, you have to learn to whom to be loyal to. Oftentimes it's the other way around, where ESFJ men are consistently plagued by like, okay, well, who should I be loyal to? When the reality is they oftentimes forget to be loyal to themselves and actually take care of themselves and have standards and have boundaries, which is absolutely important. We talk about this a lot in Season 6 playlist on the YouTube channel. ESFJs, especially ESFJ men, really need to practice the 4 pillars of self-intimacy. It is absolutely critical, which is taking responsibility for meeting your own needs, having personal standards, which leads to personal boundaries, etc. So please understand the 4 pillars of self-intimacy and what that journey actually does. Because if you're using your externalized introverted sensing properly, not only are you looking at who you should be dutiful for or reliable for, or who you should allow yourself to take on obligations for, but at the same time, through cognitive orbit, through extroverted sensing critic, you can help shape other people's reliability and their obligations. And also make sure that they are being loyal to the correct things, which is one of the highest social values of an ESFJ. So moving from the teenager function to the parent function means skillful balance in how we apply our parent function. But a mature parent function remains sacrificial and utilitarian toward other people on a consistent basis. The introverted sensing parent's development does not happen in isolation. The development of all our functions is vital for achieving social value and success. See Ego Hacking Your Fear, the course, for more information on that. But just understand, guys, introverted sensing parent, you will not, like as an ESFJ, you will continue to commit social faux pas after social faux pas over and over and over and over. It'll be endless until you take the time to develop your parent function. And how you develop your parent function is you literally do everything. You go experience everything. Get out of your comfort zone. Your comfort zone is actually what is causing you as an ESFJ to be socially inept. If you lack social skills, and in most particular, women usually actually get, in general, a free pass for lacking in social skills, but for men, absolutely not. A woman is attracted to men who have social skills compared to a man who does not have social skills. Therefore, you need to make sure that you're using your cognitive origin of discovery and exploration properly and getting out of your comfort zone and discovering things that are entirely unknown. You as a man need to set out into the unknown and gather up as much life experience as possible. As a result of all that life experience, you'll be able to craft the highest level of social skills required for you personally to actually be successful in your life. It is absolutely critical you heed my words on this. Get out of your comfort zone. Don't spend all your time on video games and exploring video games. Instead, explore places, explore locations, explore people. Create stories. Those stories are what will be the main driver for you having a good social life as a man. And also, technically, as a woman, to be fair. But even more so as a man. It is absolutely critical. So anyway, folks, thank you for watching and listening, and I'll see you guys on the next episode.